All right, let's get those taste buds ready because today we are diving deep into a flavor that's been, tantalizing us for centuries. Umami. That savory deliciousness that makes certain foods so irresistible. We're talking about that fifth taste sensation that goes beyond sweet, sour, salty, and bitter.
And you know what's fascinating is that for a long time, Western science didn't even recognize umami as a distinct taste.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was actually a Japanese chemist, Kikunai Ikeda, who first identified it way back in 1908.
Okay, that's already news to me. So tell me, what exactly is umami? I mean, I know it when I taste it, but how do you actually define it?
Well, it's often described as savory, meaty, or broth-like.
Okay.
Think about like the rich flavor of a perfectly grilled steak, or a steaming bowl of ramen,
Ooh, yeah.
or a perfectly aged Parmesan cheese. That depth of flavor, that's umami.
Okay. I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. But what's the science behind this savory sensation? What's going on?
Well, the magic lies in compounds called glutamates.
Okay.
They're amino acids that are naturally found in lots of protein-rich foods.
Gotcha.
And when these glutamates hit our tongues, they bind to specific receptors, sending signals to our brains that basically say, hey, this is delicious.
So those glutamates are like little flavor messengers, unlocking the umami experience. It's amazing how our bodies are wired for such complex taste perception. But I have to ask, where does MSG fit into all of this?
Ah, MSG, monosodium glutamate. It's
Yeah.
often misunderstood, but it's essentially pure umami in a shaker. It's a sodium salt of glutamic acid, one of the most common amino acids that's found in nature.
I've heard a lot of negative things about MSG over the years.
Yeah.
Is it really as bad as some people make it out to be?
Not at all. The negative health claims surrounding MSG have been largely debunked by scientific research. It's perfectly safe to consume. In fact, it naturally occurs in lots of foods we love, like tomatoes, Parmesan cheese, even breast milk.
So it's more a case of public perception versus scientific reality?
Exactly. It's a classic example of how misinformation can sometimes, overshadow the facts.
Well, I'm glad we could clear that up. So we've got these glutamates triggering our umami receptors. But is there anything else that plays a role in this flavor sensation?
Absolutely. Nucleotides.
Okay.
These compounds, while not umami tasting on their own, work synergistically with glutamates to amplify that savory experience.
So it's like glutamates lay the foundation and nucleotides come in to boost the signal.
Precisely. They create a sort of flavor synergy, making the umami taste even more intense and satisfying.
That explains why certain food combinations taste so much better together, like Parmesan cheese and tomatoes in a pasta sauce, or mushrooms and soy sauce in a stir-fry.
You got it. Chefs and food scientists have been harnessing this knowledge for years to create dishes that are truly umami-rich. It's all about understanding the interplay of these compounds and how they interact to create those mouth-watering flavors that we crave.
This is making me rethink my entire approach to cooking. I'm starting to see food in a whole new light. But before I run off to my kitchen to experiment, I want to understand more about this concept of food synergy. You mentioned it earlier. Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Of course. Food synergy is all about the magic that happens when certain ingredients are combined. It's like the culinary equivalent of 1 plus 1 equals 3. The flavors don't just add up, they multiply, creating something greater than the sum of their parts.
So it's not just about matching complementary flavors, but about strategically combining ingredients to create a flavor explosion.
Exactly. And this is where understanding umami becomes so powerful. By knowing which foods are rich in glutamates and nucleotides, you can create dishes that are truly bursting with savory depth and complexity.
So it's like having a secret code to unlock a whole new level of flavor.
Uh-huh.
I like it. I'm already starting to see the possibilities. Give me an example of how this food synergy works in practice.
Sure. Think about a classic combination like tomatoes and basil. Tomatoes are naturally rich in glutamates, while basil contains certain compounds that enhance the perception of umami. When combined, they create a flavor synergy that's greater than either ingredient alone.
Okay, that makes total sense. And I bet this concept applies to countless other food pairings.
You bet. It's one of the reasons why certain cuisines, like Japanese and Italian, are so renowned for their flavor complexity. They've mastered the art of food synergy, using umami-rich ingredients to create dishes that are both delicious and deeply satisfying.
This is already blowing my mind. I can't wait to learn more about how this translates to different cuisines around the world and how I can apply this knowledge to my own cooking. But for now, I think it's time to take a little break and let our listeners digest all this incredible information.
Sounds like a plan. We'll be back soon to dive deeper into the world of umami and explore its global culinary impact. Welcome back. I am excited to continue our exploration of umami and its impact on global cuisines.
Me too. Last time we left off talking about how food synergy can really amplify umami. I'm ready to hear about how this plays out in different culinary traditions around the world.
Perfect. Let's start with Japan, a country where umami is deeply ingrained in the culinary philosophy.
I've always been fascinated by Japanese cuisine. It seems like they have this incredible ability to create dishes that are both delicate and intensely flavorful.
Exactly, and a lot of that comes down to their mastery of umami. One of the cornerstones of Japanese cooking is dashi,
Okay.
a savory broth made from kambun seaweed and dried bonito flakes.
I've heard of dashi. It's used in so many Japanese dishes, from miso soup to ramen.
That's right, dashi is packed with glutamates, making it the foundation for a wide range of savory flavors. And it's a perfect example of how the Japanese approach umami. They don't just add it at the end, they build it into the very core of their dishes.
That's so interesting. It's like they're layering umami from the ground up.
Precisely. And this approach extends to other aspects of Japanese cuisine as well. Think about sushi, for example.
Yeah.
The combination of fresh fish, vinegared rice, and often a touch of soy sauce creates a delicate yet complex interplay of umami notes.
Okay, so Japan is definitely a champion of umami. What about other Asian cuisines?
Well, let's move on to Korea. Korean food is known for its bold flavors and spicy heat, but there's also a deep appreciation for umami there. One of the best examples is kimchi, that fermented cabbage dish that's practically a national treasure.
Oh, I love kimchi. It's got that sour, spicy, and savory thing going on all at once. It's so addictive.
And that addictive quality partly comes from the fermentation process, which actually increases the glutamate content, boosting the umami factor.
So fermentation is like an umami superpower.
You could say that. And it's not just kimchi. Other fermented Korean staples like doenjang, soybean paste, and gochujang, chili paste, also rely on this process to develop their rich, savory flavors.
I'm seeing a pattern here. Fermentation seems to be a key to unlocking umami in many different cultures.
Absolutely. It's a time-honored technique that's been used for centuries to preserve food and enhance flavor. And when it comes to umami, fermentation is like a culinary alchemist, transforming ingredients and creating depth of flavor that wouldn't be possible otherwise.
This is making me want to try fermenting something at home. But let's move beyond Asia for a moment. What about European cuisines? How do they approach umami?
Well, in Italy, umami is often expressed through the use of aged cheeses like a Parmesan and Pecorino Romano.
Ah, Parmesan. I could put that on just about anything. You
Right.
got that sharp, nutty, savory taste that's just irresistible.
And that irresistible taste comes from the aging process. As Parmesan matures, proteins break down, releasing those free glutamates that give it that intense umami punch.
So it's similar to fermentation in a way, breaking down substances to release those savory compounds.
Exactly. And it's not just cheese. Think about cured meats like prosciutto or salami.
Yeah.
Those also develop their rich, savory flavors through aging and the release of glutamates.
This is fascinating. I never thought about how these traditional methods of food preservation are actually boosting umami. It's like culinary science and cultural tradition coming together.
It is. And speaking of culinary traditions, let's not forget about another cuisine that embraces umami, Indian food.
Indian food is a favorite of mine. It's so aromatic and flavorful. But I'm curious to hear how umami plays a role in such a spice-forward cuisine.
Well, while spices are definitely the stars in many Indian dishes, there's often a subtle layer of umami working behind the scenes, adding depth and complexity.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Where's that umami coming from?
One of the most common sources is lentils.
Okay.
They're a staple ingredient in countless Indian curries and dals, and they happen to be packed with glutamates.
Lentils. That's surprising. I always thought of them as just a healthy, humble legume.
They are, but they also bring that savory umami depth to dishes. And Indian cooks often pair lentils with other ingredients like tomatoes, onions, and garlic, which also contribute to the overall savory profile.
So it's like a culinary orchestra, with each ingredient playing its part to create a symphony of flavor.
Exactly, and this symphony is playing out in cuisines all over the world, from the rich, meaty stews of France to the vibrant, tangy flavors of Thailand.
It's amazing how this one taste sensation, umami, can be expressed in so many different ways. It really does seem to be a universal language of flavor.
It is, and that's what makes exploring umami so exciting. It opens up a whole new way of thinking about food and how we experience flavor.
This has been an incredible journey so far. We've gone from the basic science of umami to its global culinary impact. It's clear that this fifth taste is much more than just a trendy foodie term.
Absolutely. It's a fundamental element of taste that has been shaping our culinary history for centuries. And as we learn more about it, we gain a deeper appreciation for the art and science of cooking.
Well, before we get too carried away with our newfound appreciation for umami, I think it's time to shift gears a bit and explore another fascinating aspect of this fifth taste.
Sounds good to me. What's next on our umami adventure?
Let's talk about something that might surprise our listeners. The role of umami in desserts.
Now that's an interesting twist. Most people associate umami with savory dishes, but you're right, it can play a fascinating role in sweet treats as well.
I know, right? It might sound counterintuitive, but stay with me. Think about dark chocolate. It has that slightly bitter edge, but also a hint of savoriness.
You're picking up on that subtle umami undertone. It adds depth and complexity to the chocolate, making it a more well-rounded flavor experience.
So it's not just about sweet versus savory, it's more about finding that perfect balance.
Exactly. And umami can help create that balance, adding an intriguing direction to desserts without making them taste, well, savory.
Okay, I'm getting it now. So it's like a subtle whisper of umami that enhances the overall flavor profile?
Precisely. And pastry chefs and bakers are starting to experiment with this concept, using ingredients like miso paste, seaweed, and even mushrooms to add a touch of umami to their creations.
Miso paste in a dessert. That sounds adventurous.
It is, but when done right, it can add a wonderful complexity and depth of flavor. Think about a miso caramel sauce drizzled over vanilla ice cream, or a sprinkle of seaweed salt on chocolate chip cookies.
Those are some interesting flavor combinations. I never would have thought to use those ingredients in sweet treats. This is making me rethink my whole approach to baking.
That's the beauty of understanding umami. It opens up a whole new world of culinary possibilities, both savory and sweet.
Wow, what a journey that was. I feel like we only just scratched the surface of umami.
Well, that's the beauty of it, though, isn't it? There's always more to explore, more flavor combinations to discover, more cultural connections to uncover.
Exactly. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to circle back to that Cocktail Party Chemistry podcast episode that sparked this whole exploration. Remember we started with those five fascinating factoids about umami.
Right, and those factoids really laid the groundwork for our discussion. It's amazing how much we were able to unpack from just a few key points.
Yeah, let's do a quick recap for our listeners. We learned that umami is that savory, meaty taste that we often associate with dishes like ramen, steak, and mushrooms.
And that it's triggered by a compound called glutamates, which are amino acids found naturally in lots of protein-rich foods. It's like, they're the key that unlocks the umami receptors on our tongues.
Then there's MSG, the often misunderstood flavor enhancer. We debunked some myths and talked about how it's actually perfectly safe and naturally present in many foods we love.
Don't forget about nucleotides. They act as umami's wingman, enhancing its savory punch when combined with glutamates.
And that brings us to food synergy, the idea that certain ingredients, when combined, can create a flavor explosion that's greater than the sum of its parts. This is where things get really interesting in the kitchen.
Absolutely. Knowing about food synergy allows us to become, more intuitive cooks, experimenting with different ingredients to create those truly unforgettable flavor combinations.
So those five factoids really opened up a whole world of knowledge for us. We explored the science, the culinary applications, the health implications, and even the cultural significance of umami.
It's incredible how much depth and complexity there is to this one taste sensation.
It really is. And it makes you wonder what other hidden worlds of flavor are out there just waiting to be discovered.
That's a question I think everyone should ponder, and the best way to answer it is to keep exploring, keep experimenting, and keep those taste buds engaged.
So to our listeners, we leave you with this challenge. What will your next umami adventure be? Will you try a new cuisine, experiment with fermentation, or maybe even whip up a dessert with a touch of miso? The possibilities are endless.
And remember, there's no right or wrong way to experience umami. It's all about finding what delights your palate and expands your culinary horizons.
On that note, we'll bid you farewell. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of umami. Until next time, happy eating.